Have you played Silent Slayer Vault of the Vampire yet? From the game studio that brought you the I Expect You to Die series and Among Us VR, Silent Slayer puts you into the shoes of a vampire slayer who is on a quest to destroy a clan of vampires before they wake up. This new take on VR horror is interesting because it combines puzzle solving, jump scares, and precise movement to create a tense and scary environment. This single-player game is fun to stream and share with your friends and family, especially those who may be new to both VR and VR horror experiences. From tools like pry bars and pliers to the obvious vampire stake, Silent Slayer provides an immersive and tactile experience that any prospective vampire slayer would enjoy. Silent Slayer Vault of the Vampire is now available on the MetaQuest store. Do you like playing your VR games on Steam? Don't worry. Wishlist the game on Steam and join its newsletter for updates. And for listeners of the podcast, we have an exclusive discount code for 10% off by using code RuffSlayer-8904FC. Just visit the link in our show notes and use the code RuffSlayer-8904FC for 10% off Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire.
Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we have one I'm so excited for.
It's a special one.
Yeah, today we're joined with David Wyatt, the head of communications over at Mighty Coconut, the studio behind a game we all love. We all know and love.
Dude, one of our favorite studios.
Walkabout Mini Golf. And we've had a lot of the Coconuts on the show throughout the days. And,
Yep.
you know, the other, like a month ago, we were kind of talking off air. We're like, who haven't we had on? And like, how have we never had David on? You know,
one of the most obvious.
Yeah, he's somebody that like might not be forefront on like where everybody knows his face and everything, but anybody that has ever interacted with the Coconut team behind the scenes, David is forefront. You know, he's a huge part of the team. So I think it's going to be awesome to have him on and learn a little bit more about what he does over at Mighty Coconut.
And how he got there.
Exactly. But before I go too crazy, David, do you want to tell our listeners exactly, you know, who you are and what you do over at Mighty Coconut?
Yeah, absolutely. So glad to be on Ruff Talk VR, our favorite podcast for VR. You guys really do a great service to the whole ecosystem. So always grateful for your coverage and just all the discussion that you all put forth out there. So yeah, David Wyatt. I live here in Austin, Texas. I'm a artist by training, a visual artist, and then got into music. So playing bands. And then many years ago, my wife and I started doing PR and marketing together, had an agency for many years. And one of our clients we represented was Mighty Coconut. Back in the day, I'd actually been the co-founder's boss at a museum, Christina Martel. She worked for me, and now the roles have changed. But I represented Mighty Coconut when they launched a couple of their films. And when they came calling about 3 years ago, they said, yeah, we've got this crazy VR mini golf game that's taken off and we need some communications. And I was sort of like, I'm sure you do. Good luck. You know, I didn't see myself. I mean, I was happy for them, but I didn't see myself in it. I was what I would call a casual gamer, but not really in the industry. But had done a lot of small businesses and entertainment kind of adjacent stuff. But then they started talking about what they were doing and the kind of stories they were hearing about how people were actually using Walkabout Mini Golf to connect with loved ones, to hang out with buddies, people actually spending time there. And then they mentioned keep it under your hat, or talking to the Jim company. And I was like, wait, what? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think what led me into it, besides just knowing and trusting Lucas and Christina totally, that was a big part of why I just jumped in, but also just the stories. Like I just saw all these stories unfolding. I was like, I can tell those stories. I can share those stories. That there's something that's happening there that isn't going to require me just sort of setting something up. You know, it's like it's happening. All I've got to do is play. Yeah, so that was about almost 3 years ago here, a couple of months, and joined the studio as the 9th person as they were rebuilding the studio around video game. And now we're 35, so it's quite a different time and mode that we're in. But, and I've got a team of 3 people that I work with directly in communications. And then you all have spoken with Michelle Martel, no relation to Lucas. She and I collaborate a lot on all the licensing and partnership stuff. We handle everything from community management to like Discord, moderation, all that kind of stuff, media things. So working with fine folk like yourself and other journalists, content creators, business partnerships, all the license courses. We deal with their team on co-promoting the courses, soundtracks, Walkabout Talkabouts, podcasts, all the merchandise, anything that's not in the game that we put out is something that our team does. Yeah, and we can kind of get into the philosophy of all that sort of stuff, but that's what we do in our communications team.
Well, there's a lot I want to talk about, but I think it's probably going to be the same thing. You asked about, both of our eyes lit up when he said it. You have you said an art background.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that and how that transitioned to communications? But, what exactly is your art background?
Well, in part 2, I want to know what music genres.
For sure.
Your chosen play.
For sure, yeah. So in high school, I was like the art kid. I'd come from Austin, Texas, and my parents had moved to a little town several hours away in the corner of Texas called Texarkana, kind of a smallish town. So I just found my people in the art class. And I was always, drawing and interested in, especially cartoons and things of that nature. And then just sort of, fell into being the art kid, drawing more, painting more. So when it came time to go to college, I asked my parents if I could major in art, and I was the third child, so I guess they were like, "Yeah, knock yourself out." Yeah, they had already tried to do their productive degrees with other kids. So anyway, I went and studied visual art at University of Texas at Austin. Did a lot of printmaking, did a lot of life drawing, but in that process, had started getting into writing songs and seeing local bands. Something that's great about Austin is that there's a really, really robust local music scene where people can make a whole, artistic career, at least, if not a living, but artistic career on just the local and regional scene. So I started going to see bands that were just regionally important, doing stuff I thought was really cool. And so I went from learning guitar chords in my dorm room to making home recordings, to playing in, duos and trios, and then made a band that we put out a few albums and toured around throughout college, played guitar and sang mostly in those bands. And have continued to play since. Brian, in terms of your question, genres, a lot of what I would call satirical rock. So Tenacious D or a little bit of Weird Al, Ween, things that are sort of Dr. Demento sort of stuff where there's humor, but whole different kinds of genres in the mix as well. So that's kind of been something that I've always pursued in music, is using all different genres that interested me. And now I play in a couple of bands. The main one is a 6-piece band. I play keyboard and guitar. And it's just a weekly thing we do, to blow off steam. And we do a little bit of road shows and, recording in the studio. And it's a fun outlet for sure.
If you go and start watching local live shows in Austin, is there a chance that you'll be seeing you guys do some shows?
Oh
around town?
Yeah. We play about once a month around. So, I'll let people do their research, because I'll say that our material isn't really safe for work. I mean, still gonna know about it, but if they're really interested, they can go look it up. But we play around pretty regularly.
That's awesome. And how did that lead to, communications? You said it's something you decided to start with
visual artists.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I was in school, like a lot of kids, just sort of like, I don't really understand the business world, but I've got things that interest me creatively, entertainment, bands I liked and art I liked, cover art and other kinds of things going on. And I think what happened was I was working just kind of these dopey, delivery jobs and coffee shop jobs and just the kind of thing you do when you're right out of school. And then my wife pointed out, or maybe my fiance at the time, she pointed out that the company was hiring for like a fundraising position. And I was like, I don't know anything about fundraising, but if I like music, that's cool. I would try that out. It never really occurred to me about the whole back office, like that creative entities have other functions that aren't just mega size. I just never had given it my thought. And so I went and applied to the symphony, got the job at the symphony, doing fundraising kind of support stuff, stuffing envelopes and that kind of stuff. Really quickly, I gravitated over to the marketing department. They were making cool campaigns, doing photo shoots, having interviewed the newspaper. And I was like, oh, that is cool. I just never really thought about it. In my mind, my young, sort of immature, not savvy mind, marketing was this like thing that you did to sell sneakers or soda or, in a big, like corporate sort of way. It never occurred to me that like local, benevolent, like cool creative project also needed communications, right? And so that was really kind of the opening of my eyes to, oh yeah, I could actually take two things that I love, like artists and creativity and like self-expression and, and making a living, and put them all together and really create a career. So I just defected from fundraising over to the communications department and learned that on the job until I was like the top of that department. I went to a museum and did that for a few more years. And then I created this agency with my wife and just kind of learned by doing that. There was a whole kind of subset of makers out there, creative people, small business owners, studios that were needing to get their stuff seen. And they needed some help. So I just kind of figured it out as I went and learned all the different kinds of skills as I was doing it. Yeah, so that really just sort of led me here. Never really had formal training in communications, but so far it's served me well because I kind of work in a more intuitive sort of like, I always think of this scene from Apollo 13 when they pour all the parts out on the table of the air filter system. They're like, this is what we have. We have to make this work. They can survive. And that's how I approach communication. Like, what can I grab that might make this work? That's what we try to do every day.
Well, and it should be known that, like, I don't care what the platform, every single day, there's an announcement in Discord. There's something. I know there's going to be two that are going to pop up. Facebook, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the platform. It's like the message is out there, but it's an underlooked area that can't be underlooked anymore in the business. It's like it's not a limited play space. So it's incredible to see how the team actually works at Mighty Coconut, getting the message out and staying relevant. And we won't even get into the endless DLCs that drop, the smorgasbord that are yet to come, the IPs that are being, the licensing. It's like,
and I'm sorry if I missed this, but how long ago was that you start? Like, how old were you? What year was it when you went into communications? How long have you been doing this thing? It was pretty
late. I mean, that was probably 26, 27 by the time I, sort of like stopped touring in bands, stopped delivery jobs, and was like, oh yeah, I guess I gotta make a living here. That was 27, and I'm doing one now, so however many years that is.
It's like 2007, so almost 20 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And did you ever think that would land you in video games?
No, the funny thing is, like, I had this long-held passion for entertainment and technology. Like, followed it, watched all the announcements. I sort of studied it in like a weekend after-hours sort of way, and fantasized about it. But then by the time I was, late 40s, I was sort of like, well, I guess I sort of missed the boat. I guess I didn't move to LA or New York. I didn't make those connections. I guess I'm just like local. Because at this point, I was working for PR agent. Like, we sold our agency to another agency, and I was working there. and just sort of like, I guess I'm just sort of like local PR guy, representing small businesses and local stuff. I guess that's my thing. And then during the pandemic, like a lot of us, you're sort of like doing your stuff and like, well, this has sort of become meaningless. Hopefully you kept your job or whatever, but you're sort of moving stuff around and like the here in my guest bedroom, emailing people and Googling stuff. And what does this all sort of mean? And I was like, this isn't really, especially talking to my son, who's a gamer. He was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. And I was just trying to like explain to him why I was rationalizing the stuff I was putting up with at work, or going through the motion, making compromises, going along to get along. And as I was saying it, I actually stopped myself mid-sentence. I was like, that's BS. Don't listen to what I just said. That's the kind of stuff that adults just sort of say when you get in a rut. I was like, I have to make change. I realized I was teaching him, I was saying a bunch of stuff about like your passion and, make a difference in the world, but I wasn't demonstrating that to him. I was teaching him something else with my action, which is, as we know, as fathers, that's what actually teaches, right? You can say a lot. What you do is what they really, really see. And so I was like, okay, I got to make a change. And so I made this decision, like, I don't care what the field is. I don't care what the job is. I want to make positive difference. I want to bring joy into the world. And I want to build something. I don't want to maintain things. I was just in a job where I was just maintaining stuff day after day. And I was like, I'm going to, all other criteria, I'm going to throw out the window. I'm just going to look for that and wait for that. And so that when I had that coffee with Christina Martell, and she was like, hey, we got this thing, something, mini golf, something VR, which I'd never done before. I was like, joyful. I trust her. I could get to build something. I'm taking the leap. I know what this is. And I actually did my first interview with like the second time I'd put on a headset. I'd done the little demo thing for my son's Quest. And then Lucas wanted to meet me in Walkabout. And so I was like in my son's room and put on the headset. He was off at school and I was like, trying to not, fall over, throw up or whatever. And he offered me a job like on Tourist Trap, on like hole 3 or 4. But, but it was sort of like, even though I didn't fully understand what the field was or what the needs were going to be from a communications perspective, I was like, this is beautiful and cool and innovative and brings my heart joy just to be in here with, Lucas, who I'd known through the years. I was just like, this feels like a positive direction to go. So I'm just going to go here and sort of see where it takes me. So been a whole lot of happenstance to get here at the door.
Well, and I'll note the endless amount of stories that you all receive from people of their reason for playing, other than just I enjoy mini golf. There's always this like story that goes behind, me and friends I haven't seen in 20 years, me and my father who I haven't seen in 40 years. But the amount of people that verbally like scream to the hills that it's one of the best parts of the game is the interaction with the people you're playing with, because it's typically like people you might not see all the time in the real life, but for that moment they're there with you.
Yeah, exactly. There's something really magical that happens. And part of it, I think, it's the nature of VR, the presence that you feel like you're in a place, and part of Lucas's background with like world building for animation, where he put as much emphasis on the place as the gameplay. But I think part of it is also like when you go camping, you generally meet nice people because those are people who are choosing to go camping, right? So if you're meeting people that are playing VR mini golf, generally they're not like in it to ruin one another. They're there to kind of like putt around a few, but most of them are there to kind of like, have a good time, be whimsical, be lighthearted. But something really special happened, when people get in there, it brings out something really wondrous in them, where it's like, oh, wow, look at that. And I think I see a skeleton over there. They get sort of like this childlike, like they're me, they're like, yeah, let's go on an adventure. Let's fly over there. So that happened. But I'll say, like, that's the biggest gift that we get as a studio and that I get as communicators, that every day I open up my computer and there's just like touching stories and humble confession and, like good faith partnerships. And like, we really want to do something wonderful with what you guys are doing. Or I met fiance here, or I've been having 3-minute phone calls with my dad for 10 years. Now we're in there laughing and giggling and running around. I mean, I could fill a whole episode just retelling these stories. And I think for us, like a couple of things that are kind of going on in terms of what differentiates our image out there, our reputation is, one is that we do have content coming a lot, which helps a lot, right? Having more of a story to tell, we're actually giving people real experiences and new features to go in and try helps a lot. I think a lot of games they launch and they have their basic thing, and you go in and do them for several hours, and then you might revisit them. They just they're not set up to either the game mechanic or the studio to just add and add and add. That's a really great gift that we have, and that players have been so receptive. I think the other thing is that if you leave any game community unchecked, what will rise to the top is just like noisy people that want to dominate with scores, people that troll, people that just have dominant personalities. And because we saw this influx of just sort of like kindness, humility, and gratitude coming at us, we're like, that's what we're hearing about. We don't hear from like the poor people that like email us and talking about how scoring the best has changed their life or brought them closer to their brother or whatever. It's the people that are just there to be there. I'll tell you, there's a lot more casual, good timing people than there are score centric, dominating leaderboard type people. And so we decided early on, like, we're going to make that matter here. That's the story we're going to lift up, is like, I did a good thing. I taught someone. I used the game to help my dad who had a stroke or whatever it is. We told those stories way more frequently than the 10 people that dominate one another on the scoreboard. I mean, I think as a result of that, what happened, at least what our observation and sort of plan has been, is that more people see that and they're like, oh, I can matter here. I'm going to show up here. I'm going to be able to get that score or that crazy trick shot. Like, that's cool, but I can't ever do that. But I can show up and be a decent person. I can teach someone something and ask them how they are. I can tell them something. I can tell them something I know about the game or otherwise. So I think it fosters this sense of like, come on in, you're welcome, right? You're a person here too. You don't have to have a lot of followers on Twitter. You don't have to have a great score. You don't have to have a private personality. You can just be you. Come on in and do that. And so I think, Brian, to get to your point about like all the stories that come out, is we're really just sort of like passing along what our players give to us, kind of reflecting out there, along with the features that the team is working so hard on, certainly. But there's just a lot more of like positive human stories to tell. And I think because of the nature of VR, like most other gaming devices, consoles, screens, they're out, they're on your desk, they're in your pocket. You're looking at them when you're not gaming, and you're like, you're getting an alert, you're getting a buzz, you're getting something that reminds you to get back in that thing and play it. With VR, like in the drawer, it's on the shelf, you're not looking at the screen until you decide to charge it up, put it on your face. And so we realized that as a communications team and the whole studio, is it put the responsibility on us to like tell people stories in other places to give them reason to get back in, remind them of that joyful experience they had 6 weeks ago when they remembered to put their headset on before, have that experience again. Yeah. And I think the other sort of thing, and I know I'm monologuing here, but I just get so excited about it, is that the nature of, VR as a camera is that, if you create content in the game, like it's your field of view. And so when a lot of people capture VR, it's just that first person thing. You see arms and you see kind of this sort of like body cam sort of footage. And I think as a VR player, you understand like, okay, that's what it's like to be in there. And when I'm in, it's better and different. But as a person who hasn't ever done it, you look at it, you think, why is that appealing? I don't really understand like where are the people, where's the story? Am I there with my squad? What's going on? And so our editor here, Wesley, has a filmmaking background and has done a wonderful job of trying to do more like using classic filmmaking techniques to really tell the story of being in an immersed VR space and really showing that people are together, that they're like seeing each other and laughing and pointing at things, every little piece of content we do, there's a real effort to show that that exactly you're talking about, Brian, where people are connecting, they're having a good time with their buddies or with their families, so that people can understand that it's not just like a first person, wave your arms around situation, but you're actually are sharing a space together, and that's kind of a big part of the joy.
Well, even when we've gone in with the Discord event ones that we've had in our Discord, it's like everybody's just having fun. Everybody's doing their thing. People are talking. People are flying. People are looking for the balls.
You have to have a real bad day to be in a bad mood in Walkabout Mini Golf.
And what's amazing to me is I remember before we had gotten it, I mean, we looked at the ratings. I'm like, how can there be so much?
How is Mini Golf one of the best games in VR?
Swear to God. And then like second we played it,
understood it.
Oh my God. I get it. It's just one of those things that I feel if someone tries it for 5 minutes, it all kind of clicks, especially if you can play with somebody that it's like, it's a home run.
Well, last Friday, we actually did the AMA with the Meta Quest Discord community. We were lucky enough to be featured on there for an AMA. And one of the questions they asked us was, what game would you recommend to a first-time VR player? And you put the stipulation, you're like, can I play with them or not? Because if I can play with them, it's Walkabout Mini Golf.
Walkabout.
Absolutely. That's a game to sell people on VR. But, you had mentioned you'd only put on a headset like twice at the most when you got this opportunity. What was your thoughts the first time you played Walkabout? I'm sure it has to be a little nerve-wracking. Like, all right, I'm jumping to this game professionally. Yeah. You don't know if you like it yet. So I'm sure it's a little bit like, I really hope I like it. But what was your...
Yeah, I mean, at first impression? At first I sort of thought like, what have I done? Because I got in, and I mean, you there's that kind of hump you have to get over, even with a very comfortable game like Walkabout Mini Golf, where you have to be sort of like figure out your sea leg, figure out which style of movement is not going to make you get nauseated, and there's just kind of especially if you spend more than 20 minutes in any VR thing, it's a little sweaty. You get it sort of exhausted, your eyes have to adjust, and so there was a time the first, 3 or 4 weeks, we were doing lots of mini golf sessions. We were using Meta Horizons at the time for group meetings, like the workrooms stuff. And I was like, so technically challenging to figure out, along with all the other like regular project management platforms we were doing. And I was just sort of like, what have I done? Can I do it? Like, I mean, imposter syndrome felt very real. Like, I'm like the old guy. I feel like a narc. Like, I'm like, yeah, right, kids, with the VR. Like, I felt like I just did not belong. But then I realized that everyone had a little bit of a hurdle to get over. I think, my first impression of just Walkabout itself was that it was because I'd been so familiar with Mighty Coconut, the animation work, Picture Impossible and Ocean Maker, Kings of Atlantis, is that I totally recognize the world building, the characters, the charming kind of, so I felt at home immediately, like on Tourist Trap. I was like, I get it, comfortable, it's familiar. I get the kind of deserted island sort of vibe. And then I think, what then pushed me in is that I wanted to like not suck, I wanted to be decent, because I was about to be meeting all these other cool artists that were making stuff at Mighty Coconut. And I was like, I got to be okay. So I like really powered through for several weeks of just like getting in a headset a couple hours a night, really trying to like figure out how to do all the basics so that when I started meeting people in game, I could actually hold my own. So yeah, that was sort of my introduction to VR, really. It's been a great joy for sure. I still use it, like, even though I'm in it, at least an hour a day at work, I still go in there most nights and just sort of blow off steam, sort of dial in my score, or, we get to play and release courses. So I'll do that quite a bit and just sort of daydream about what might be possible with what.
Well, you look at all the things that have to come together perfectly for something to happen. It sounds like the Jim Henson DLC is, that licensed IP is big part of what helped you make the jump. Also, the comment from your kid that touched your heart too. It's like, if those things both at the same time don't happen, you might not be where you are today. But if I'm not crazy, was the Jim Henson DLC, was that the first licensed DLC?
Yeah, it was the first licensed course, and that was probably a full 10, 11 months after I joined. So they were starting to kind of talk to them, and they were working on an actual contract when I met with them. And so, they disclosed to me that was in the works. And so I could just sort of see the possibility that there was licensed stuff ahead. But, Shangri-La was right around the corner. So I got that when I joined. I could just sort of see like that it was going to go. And then they had all sorts of ideas in the can that they wanted to develop out. So I definitely, although I didn't have enough game experience to understand like our position relative to other studios and games position in terms of content and stories, I did see that there was just endless possibilities in terms of things we could build, songbooks, podcasts, and interviews, and parties in the game and all that kind of stuff. I just saw so many things that we could do and use it for good things.
Absolutely. I mean,
writing the book on how to do it.
Mhm.
It's like there's a handful of studios that they've got this side under wraps. It's like they understand the value of it. They know where to invest in it, and Walkabout's definitely one of those examples.
the leader of the DLC model in VR, if you ask me, $3.99 a DLC. Come
Yeah,
on, it's the cost of a cup of coffee.
Remember
is what
when
we
the
always
price
say.
went up and it was like the apology post coming from Mighty Coconut, like, oh, we feel bad. It was like, we raised it $1,
Yeah, everyone was like, raise it $2. More,
yeah, we'll pay more.
Yeah.
We'll
You've
pay the
always said
difference.
you'll pay a season pass for the year.
I would prepay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gladly.
Yeah.
Give me a whole season pass, 12 months. I don't care.
Well,
even upcharge me.
And the licensed DLCs are the same as the regular DLC.
Yeah.
It's just like a flat price. You guys crush it. So what's it been like seeing all of like the license side of, Walkabout really explode since you've joined?
It's, it's super thrilling. I mean, that's the whole license world is something I did not have my mind around before I started here in terms of how that worked. Like their participation in it, what it sort of doors it would open up, how we would sort of navigate it. But as we've now done Jim Henson's Labyrinth, Science Mist, Meow Wolf. We have Wallace and Gromit with Artemis coming. Or it just came out at the time of the airing of this episode. And so working with each one of those partners has been, and we're already working, with Elvis Estate people for that one as well. Working with each one of those partners is fascinating. Our criteria for licensing is that, there's a world that sort of unlocks for us and for our players that we wouldn't be able to take them otherwise. So that's a big criterion, but also that they want to play. If they just want a business deal and like, sign this piece of paper and do it faithfully to the thing we made before and let us approve. We don't want that deal. We want to be able to actually do something with it. We want participation with them. We want it for the players to not feel like a legal deal, but like a real creative partnership. So we physically go. So we went to like Jim and Studios. We went to Washington to see the NIST folks. We went to multiple Meow Wolf locations and really understood not just the physical location, the ephemera and artifacts of how they made the thing. Look at the puppet, look at the models, but also we wanted to meet with like, why do you guys do it? Tell us the backstory when you first started doing it. Where you trying to go next? Because we really wanted to deeply understand and make sure not only for our creative process, but ultimately for their fans especially, but for ours, they saw it every much a bit of that canon and catalog as another thing. So when people get in to play Wallace and Gromit, we want them to feel like they are at 62 West Wallaby Street. Wallace is real, or Gromit's real, or Feathers is real. And so we really wanted work with those folks. And, certainly we want to tap into their voice and their fandom as well. So that's been a joy for me just to get to know how that works. Partnering on marketing stuff has been a lot of fun, for sure. But we're always looking for ways that we can sort of that for sure and try out different ways to reward our fans. Because the other thing that some people may have picked up from our social media and interviews is that, the license courses, they cost money, and they take a lot of time. They're, 15, 18 months in the making. So people have all these ideas. Let's do that. Oh, you did this. And we want to get to them. But we just, even though we've got courses planned well into 2026 and, aspirations to keep on going with it, we can only really fit in like 1 or 2 a year of licensed courses. And so now we're trying to figure out where we give people, reward them with other licensed stuff just elsewhere that isn't an entire course. See if that is satisfying, see if it's fun, see if there's value in that for sure. Just trying all the stuff.
Well, I am guilty of, I even call it my spend walkabout moment. It's time to spend walkabout's money. This is the course we'd love. Where's my Willy Wonka? That's the one I've been like.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka and Dr. Seuss, I'm always complaining about. But I just put it out there just because of their ideas, not with any expectation that I would ever expect a studio. I know the amount of work and especially the level of detail from the art team that goes into these courses, even to the ball hiding, to the fox hunts. It's like, it's a total package and it's worth waiting for. But we also know that there's a endless amount of possibilities and courses that
sometimes we fanboy. That's all.
I can't help myself,
Well, and we love that. We love hearing that from people because it tells us like, the direction that people are sort of interested in. Sometimes, people in the community will raise ideas and we'll be like, oh, we hadn't really thought of that. Or, we all debate every little thing that we do intently in a friendly sort of way. But when we're debating licenses, because not everyone grew up with the same set of things or is familiar with the same set of things. So there's things we've done where, the core design team isn't super familiar with it. And we're able to be like, but look at these comments over here. People are asking for it. They're bringing it up again and again and again. So we're able to sort of make our case for people. There actually isn't appetite for that. I know it may not be your particular thing you grew up loving, but a whole bunch of people love it. And that's one of the kind of gifts of having such a broad, multi-generational base is, some people love classic stuff. Some people, like for a lot of people, nostalgic stuff happened in the 90s. I was like off college, I wasn't really, those things weren't nostalgic to me in the same upbringing sort of way, but we just know there's a lot of people with ideas and passions in different places. And so we're trying to kind of work our way around and reward them. We know that every course can't be everyone's thing, that's all right. That's why we try to like have the pendulum swing and alternate where like one course is their thing, each one be a totally different kind of play style, aesthetic, vibe, and bring something around to them that they will sort of enjoy, give them reason to get in and stay in.
Well, I'm hyped for the upcoming Elvis course. No doubt. That's going to be a hit.
I'm dying to see it.
I love the Evil Layers series as well too. Yeah. So I'm excited what's coming from that original series as well. But the newest course, the Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, dude, it's fun.
Oh man,
fun. It's challenging though.
Well,
first go around, I found
first go around was real challenging for us. I tanked my score the first time. I think I was like plus 13. You were like plus 9. But admittingly, the second playthrough, we crushed it. So it was like one of those, like the first time you play it.
-8, I think.
Yeah, we did really good the second time. So I think it's the first time you play it. There's so many like wacky things going on that you kind of have to learn it the first time. But once you know it, it's not as hard. Obviously, but
I enjoy some of the new mechanics. It just sucks sometimes to figure out how a new mechanic works. It means you have to put yourself into a situation that's not really conducive of actually doing well, but you want to know how, I want to know how it works.
But this one was a blast. But were you a big Wallace and Gromit fan?
I would say like I was kind of a passive fan. Like I enjoyed some of the films, wasn't as familiar as some of the people in the studio, but I definitely understood immediately the appeal of what that was going to open up for us. In the same way that Meow Wolf like pushed us in terms of ball mechanics and sphere, portal, and that sort of thing, I understood immediately that Wallace and Gromit was going to put us in this sort of interactable gadget space and really push us on the animation front. It definitely did that. There's like 10 times the amount of animation in this course than we've ever done any other course. I think one of the things that a story I like to tell about how Wallace and Gromit came to be is that shirt that you're wearing, Damien, is from our Meow Wolf announcement from South by Southwest last year. And we decided to have a take over a local kind of historic mini golf course here in Austin, Peter Pan Mini Golf. And we sort of, we transformed it into Walkabout music. Every hole was themed to a different course. And a guest of a guest was a guy from Artemis. And he just showed up. They'd met on LinkedIn 2 days before South by. He was like, I'm going to this thing. Yeah, I'll meet you there. That sounds good. And he just walked on. There was no screens on the property at all. It was just us and mini golf and, craziness. And he just vibed with the craziness. Like he showed up and people were pretending to fly with their putters. And people had name tags on headbands on their head. And he was like, this kind of zaniness is what we're about. What is this? And we were like, oh, it's actually a VR mini golf game. Oh, okay. Well, let's have coffee tomorrow and talk about that. And so sure enough, we met him the next day for coffee, showed him the game. He showed us his licensing deck. And we were like, yeah, there's something we can actually do there. Totally. And so I think that's another interesting sort of thing is like art. It says something about the licensor, the partner, for them to see like, I'm willing to have you come in and, remix my thing with mini golf. They can't be too precious about it. That Henson would let us take Jim Henson's Labyrinth, drive some mini golf in the middle of that, or Mist Island, which is sort of this, holy place in video game lore. And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. Put a mini golf course in there. That's a lot of fun. And so that's a big part of it. There's people that have come to us who have been like, okay, well, the money makes sense. We understand the deal, and you have a trusted track record and all that kind of stuff. But then they don't have the spirit of fun with it. They're not like, oh, that'd be fun to get them to do something weird with it. There's really nothing for us there. I think Artemis especially, you'll see this. We had sketches from Nick Parr, creator of Artemis and Wallace and Gromit, of mini golf holes he wanted to do. They got in early on and talked to us about scale. About all the mechanics. And, another interesting thing about that people should know about Wallace and Gromit is we've been talking about recently about how we basically redone the underpinnings of the whole game over the past year. Lucas created the game by himself during the lockdown. It was really just built to do just mini golf, a certain set of games, a certain set of like courses. And then we've basically been like rewiring the whole thing to make it, work faithfully, but also have like game modes, make saving work better, make different physics possible. About the time that Artemis came along, we were really, really pushing the optimization of what was possible in terms of the motion, the graphics, the lighting, and the size of the spaces. And so I think had they come to us a year before, we wouldn't have been able to pull it off in terms of just the mechanics of like all those devices, all those contraptions, all the crazy stuff that happens in that experience. But because they came to us today, or a year ago rather, we were able to produce that, put it out yesterday. So, it's just funny how we really are, the team is trying to kind of keep up with the demands players want, what the creative folks are wanting in the game. And I think Wallace and Gromit is a really good example of how it looks like a whimsical, fun, simple experience, but there's like so much technically going on under the hood to make all that possible.
Well, the fact that the whole course is in the house.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I was curious before playing it, like, all right, what's the playscape going to be for this? And then
18 holes in a house,
yeah,
and some backyard,
and it works,
yeah.
and the basement,
yeah. But it's so fun.
And the 18th hole, which is definitely not in the house, but
some real unique game mechanics.
I like how the mechanics.
I like how the DLC courses, they kind of like alternate between like more traditional mini golf in some cases, and then other ones they'll bring,
upside down
things that you could only ever do in VR. But there's a nice balance for the players. It's kind of always fresh coming in.
I've become accustomed to the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
I would hate to see it all, like the cadence of it get screwed up, because I'm adjusted to like, well as the like almost shadow droppy courses.
Oh, sometimes they just come out.
Yep. Like, hey, guess what?
In 3 weeks, they're coming out. So
we have more of that kind of more surprises coming up in the second half of the year and going forward, where because of how they've adjusted the way the whole game is put together, we have the ability to like just turn stuff on without it having to be a build necessarily, for example. So there's just all sorts of ways that we can surprise people, and I think this is where we're headed. is that, well, I know this is where we're headed, is that we weren't really wanting, Walkabout's always been more of a place than a game. There's a game that goes through it, right? But it's a place. You can go and meditate, talk, explore, sit and look at the horizon, hang out and talk. But we want to make it a dynamic place where people know that they can go there anytime. There can be all sorts of stuff like happen. Different pop-up games, weather, crazy hijinks, creatures spilling over from one course to the other course. And so we really we've got so many plans in the works to really unlock this dynamic, bustling, kind of miniverse that's going on in Walkabout, where people can put on their headset, with Pocket Edition and just see what's happening in there and have all sorts of crazy surprises.
The future of Walkabout.
So kicking up the social interaction possibilities more.
Yeah, exactly.
Genius.
Well,
I mean, I can't assume by design when the game was first made that the intention was to know that there would be this communal thing going on with people. So,
well, but the funny thing is that Meta, Oculus at the time, came to Lucas that you need to put multiplayer, and he was like, "Really? I don't think people are going to want to play mini golf with each other." Like, you just thought that's a thing you go and do by yourself and have peace and quiet. And they were like, "Yeah, I think you really should," and he did. And of course, that is like the thing. By percentage, it's probably 60 some odd % of the sessions are multiplayer. So people do get in and play by themselves. They're around. A lot of people only play solo, but predominantly, definitely the story has come from people. And I think the most retention comes from people getting in and playing with one another. Oh, it's Tuesday night, it's game night, or newest DLC launch. Let's get sort of play, giving people a reason to put on their headset and charge it up, and hopefully, see what else is going on. We're sort of rising tide lifts all ships is our philosophy. So we don't see ourselves in competition with anything else. We'll set a release date, and it'll be like, yeah, that's the same date as so-and-so. Like, great. People get both, I don't think a $4 DLCs, people would be like, new game or $4 DLC. It's sort of like an impulse buy. They're buying some a Snickers bar on the way out of the grocery store. It's like an extra little pleasant thing you can do. Yeah, we're really just kind of in the business trying to reward our players. They'll tell each other, we don't put money into marketing. We don't buy ads. We're not, out billboards the size of a building at a conference to try to show off what we're about. We see it as organic growth. And if we take care of our players, they'll take care of the marketing, telling their friends about it. Because I think that's what really keeps the retention there, is that people, you have an expectation that your buddy's going to be in there. You tell them to get a headset, or you invite them to a game. That's what makes the game go forward, not us, blasting them with social media ads or emails or anything like that.
What I love too is the fact that you can take someone in the VR space who's like, oh no, I love shooter's my thing, but I play Walkabout Mini Golf, or somebody who might be into something else, but they'll play Walkabout Mini Golf,
or maybe isn't typically a gamer, but Walkabout is their thing. It kind of hits all audiences.
Yeah.
I love how much of this story is by chance. I mean, if I'm not crazy, Lucas only made Walkabout because it was the pandemic, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
And animation was slow, and working in VR was just kind of a fun thing. Your story of getting involved in it is completely by chance. Like totally. I said, your son making the comment, it being the pandemic, all this stuff.
Totally.
Aardman coming in, what are the chances of that? And then Oculus, that was maybe one of the times they were really changing the trajectory of the future of Walkabout Mini Golf with the social aspect, with the multiplayer. If each one of those things didn't happen,
it was the perfect storm.
It would be a completely different world. And I mean, Aardman had to be already a little familiar with VR because they had the Waltz and Gromit.
The Green Getaway. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That was already in the works when you guys started talking?
It was. They already sort of working on it. But they saw sort of room for both. But I think, that is one thing I'll say is, back before I, got into marketing jobs after college, I was delivering flowers. That's a job I could do and then go on tour and stuff. And this was before GPS, before cell phones. I just had like a map and I kind of understood the layout of the city. But I would just had this philosophy of I don't want to sit at red lights. So if I got to an intersection that was the green, I was like, I'm just going to go with the green light to take me. I get around and get over to that part of town, deliver those flowers. Slowly over time, I've adopted that to work. I'm sort of like, what's the world telling you that it wants more of, right? Like different insist, like, you're going to want this. I originally thought of want this thing. It's like, they're going to tell you, right? And so we've tried to really adopt that philosophy here at Mighty Coconut of like, not having a set playbook, not trying to do it the way all other games or all other VR games do it. We're just sort of like, be open to that happenstance where people just speak up, where a good idea comes from, or an opportunity, where someone's like, hey, would you want to do this? Oh, we never thought of that before. Other studios aren't doing it. We never thought about doing it, but that's worth a shot. And I think that's really been, some of it's particular to our culture as a studio, some of it's particular to VR mini golf. But I think a lot of it is something that a lot of studios should be open to. It's just the idea of there isn't necessarily like a conversion rate or a KPI or something like that that's going to like build a long-term successful strategy. A lot of times you just have to look at your players and be like, what do you all want? How are you actually behaving? Let's build it around that, and not how we want you to play or who we want you to be, or where we want you to go. Like, here's the thing. Let's see what you do with it. I think so many things, like the beach ball is a teeny example. It's like, we were like, oh, let's come out with beach ball mode. We'll do a big kind of trailer. And it'll look like, just put it on there and see what people do with it. Like, are they competitive? Are they goofy? Do they ignore it? Put up a lot of expectations around it. Let's just put it in and see what happens. I think that kind of thinking of like, it's almost like a place of humility of like, let's just put it down in the middle of the town square, see what people do, and then lean into that. Rather than spend 2 years developing something we think that they're going to lose their mind over, that's going to fundamentally change the nature of the game or the community. And then try to like double down when it doesn't necessarily work. So we try to be nimble and simple and humble and just put things out there that we think will add to the game and then just pay attention. So that's our hope anyway.
Well, and if you look at the team that makes up, we don't know all 35, but the ones we've spoken to, oh my God, it's like everyone's a rock star in their field, or what they've done in the past, from like Disney backgrounds to amusement park backgrounds. And it's holy Moses.
I think almost everyone here has some other creative practice that they work on, like weekly, that is what they do here. So we've got like people that do ceramics or like lighting design or painting or dancing, and I think that it does inform like the fact that Lucas and Christina attracted people that weren't all just gamer people, game studio people, said something about how they wanted to create the game going forward. It was a little bit of a gamble, but I think it's paid off because people bring additional, like, they don't follow a specific like plan or pattern to how they're building courses or doing art or doing other things. Certain jobs like back-end engineer and QA are a little bit more kind of by the book, but most of the jobs are occupied by people that are sort of adjacent, bring some sort of other set of ideas in.
It reminds me a lot of like, there's the old UMass story. We live in a very college heavy area, and there's a story that they didn't originally lay the trails paved. They just laid out the campus and let people walk, and the most walked spots became the paved
That's
trails.
Exactly right.
It's kind of the mentality of Walkabout, it sounds.
We talk about that story all the time of just sort of like a high return, low effort thing, and just let people desire lines is what that architect had called it. Like, we're just going to put the buildings in and let them decide what the sidewalks are, and we'll go there. Absolutely. And I think, not being too married to any one particular vision. It can be hard, to definitely run a big team and moving in a generalized sort of direction. But the minute we get to like letter to letter on a plan, then people are just making decisions based on what the plan said and not what's right or what their gut tells them or what they debate out between themselves. So it's a little bit messier, but it definitely, I think, keeps us a little truer to what the players want and need, what we decide on close.
Well, I know as a consumer, I look forward to every single DLC. It's like, I know I'm getting that Walkabout vibe and experience, and I trust the team to take, especially the license stuff. That one has me the most intrigued for future licensing, because obviously that's not an area that's stopping. So,
well, let's talk about what you get for $4 as well too. So it's going to be an awesome new environment.
mm-hmm.
I mean, has there ever been an environment in a Walkabout course that's not kick-ass? We're big fans of the music side of things in video games, so
yeah,
that's something the music composer in
crushes it every single.
His name slips my mind. Yeah,
Chris Raymond. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
His name's come up a bunch, especially when we talk with Lucas, because I know Lucas has a big appreciation for that side as well. So you have great artwork, you have great music coming your way. You're probably going to have a couple new game mechanics. And of course, most courses have at least a couple.
Yeah.
You're going to get 36 holes, not 18, because you got easy and hard mode.
Yep.
And something that I can't believe it took me so long to start to appreciate, but we've become recent big fans of the Fox Hunt. So you get a nice little puzzle adventure for $4. 36 holes, artwork, great music, and a puzzle.
Well, you get a
and
putter,
a new club.
New club, 18 balls.
Yeah, come on.
Usually avatars too.
Come on.
It's cheaper than a large coffee.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And something that blew me away was the recent remastered course for free that also came with new game modes, which I'll be honest with
Simultaneous.
I don't play any other way these days.
Yeah.
That's my new jam. Simultaneous mode. We've done a couple big Discord meetups. Admittingly, our Discord meets up for every new DLC course that comes out. We just can't always make it with them. In fact, we usually, unfortunately, our schedule doesn't line up. So they just do their own thing anyway without us. Yep. But once you pass 5, 6 people in, one at a time mode, the traditional mode, admittingly, it can extend the game time a lot. It's like every additional person, it compounds. It doesn't add the same amount of time with each additional person. It's like each additional person is double the amount of time as it added with the other person. Whereas simultaneous mode, we go through a whole course in 15 minutes.
Oh yeah. It totally is a different way of doing it. Sure. Yeah, because I think you had one person and you kind of feel obliged to sit there and watch the planet talk. But you had 2 or 3 people fly off, do all kinds of other stuff. And they're like, hey, buddy, it's your turn over here. Oh, right. Or people go off together, like 2 lost dogs, and you just get into trouble together, and you call them back. So yeah, simultaneous mode is apparently the game changer for a competing game. We have more of that stuff to work.
Well, what I've noticed with simultaneous, even though we'll go in default checking that on every time, is there's a lot of holes where we wait. Where I'll watch how you're gonna. Yeah, I don't want to play it at the same time. Mm-hmm. So in some circumstances, I'm probably not really taking advantage of the full benefit of being able to just go at will, because I want to see how you're taking the shot or you're watching how I'm taking.
Yeah,
but love the feature though.
And we usually do stay even at even if we are going at the same time, we'll usually stay on the same hole together.
Yeah,
but I love that if you're playing in a group, one person's short on time. Everybody could kind of watch each other, but you could just have one guy go as far ahead because they don't have to be on the same hole. They could be 6, 7, 8 holes ahead. So it's a game changer. For yourself, I mentioned all these different things that you get for a DLC. Some people like to go into Walkabout. You reference chasing scores, but for a lot of people, it's relaxing.
Sure.
I think our favorite part is probably honestly finding the balls of a new course.
Finding the balls is my number one. When a new course comes.
Some people are Fox Hunt people. What's your favorite aspect of playing Walkabout? Is it just going in there and relaxing, or is it the puzzles? What's your jam?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally over time, it's probably just the solitude and dallying my scores. But and that's what I'll do on my own time, for sure. And my son and I have a tradition of I stay in the Fox Hunt. For him, I don't do any of the Fox Hunt until he and I get in the month after. We do that. That's our tradition to do together. But I think my favorite in all courses is we do what we call a hard hat tour right before we release it, or a few weeks before we release it, so we can really go through all the kind of keep people from that course and be like, what was your intention? What's some tech or art here with the Easter egg that we wouldn't necessarily get? And it's really, really useful. Like they tell us a lot of stories, but it's really kind of, there's always this moment at the end of that hard hat tour where we kind of just behold it. It's sort of like the last moment, this is ours, before it goes to the press people, before the players sort of rush in, before we open the gates and cut the ribbon and get everyone in. The last moment that is really just ours. And it's kind of our little secret, our world to behold. And we have so many expectations and sort of wonder about like, can't believe you all did this, and wonder what people are going to think. We have all these hopes wrapped up in like, what are they going to think about it? What's going to agitate them? What's going to be a talking, a point of debate? But they're always just this really kind of sweet, humble moment at the end of that where we get in and sort of like, I think the one I remember specifically was night mode on Around the World with the Fireworks. We're all sitting at the top of the Apple Tower on that one platform, looking at it like, we've really done something here, and I can't wait to see what people are going to get in and do it. That's kind of my favorite moment, production cycle. But yeah, for me personally, it's like getting in there, escaping, the adulting, basically getting in there, escaping adulthood, and just sort of dabbling in my shop, taking in the scenery.
So you avoid Fox Hunt spoilers the entire development process?
I do. I just don't like la 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 la. I'm trying to pay attention until they come up.
That's awesome.
Most times, yeah.
That's awesome. And I know we're pushing time a little bit. You're a busy man. It's a Sunday. We're stealing
Sunday.
you.
Cool.
I always have great appreciation for people making time on, what is generally a calm
An
rest day.
inconvenient schedule.
Yeah, it's us. We go, hey, not only talk to us for an hour as a busy person, also talk to us on a Sunday. But,
Sorry, that's awesome.
do you have, it's so hard to pick. So this is a tough one, but do you have a favorite course that's come out so far? Even if it's one of the original courses?
Yeah, I mean, for a long, long time, it was Shangri-La, which is why I chose to sit here. It was sort of the first one for me that really gave me the feels, like I've been in almost all the base game courses. This is, the second DLC course to come out. So I'd been on, I guess, all of them at that point. But it was the first one. I think it was those lanterns rising at night where I was just like, really sort of took my breath away and gave me goosebumps, So I think that one for a long time was my most favorite. I think Laser Layer probably stole that. Like when that started getting in development, I was like, ooh, yeah. That's like, it was swanky. It was a place I wanted to live. It had all those, mechanic, kind of rideable, the boat and the tram and all that kind of stuff too. So I think Laser Layer probably. I'm actually a big Upside Down fan. I know it's a controversial take, but part of it is that I like to be contrarian, so that everyone's like, that one's a hard one. I'm like, no, but I love it. I still think though, like Shangri-La is one that when I go, I'm able to get my score up just a little bit. Like it has the most meaning to me because I've spent so much time there. Probably had the most powerful conversations on that course with other people. For some reason, people bring up like grief and loss and longing on that course a lot. Something about the lanterns rising slowly in the night. And I always just enjoy those kind of those wistful conversations. So I'm going to go with Shangri-La.
It's a classic. It's hard one.
Yeah.
Hard one to argue against.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, would there have been could you argue any answer?
No. And I mean, if it makes
'Cause
you feel better,
some-
we liked Upside Down too.
Yeah.
We just call it Upside Down Town is the only thing.
Yeah,
but we have a
sure,
great time.
yeah.
Upside
Yeah.
downtown.
We have a bad problem if we say something wrong one time. That's it.
I liked the thing was loaded with new mechanics.
Yeah.
Anti-gravity situations of, reverse gravity,
It's one of those
Yeah.
only possible in VR
Yeah.
situations. So
it's like, come on.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Well, I think for a lot of people who are like so married to their putt and like their score, and it's like they can't enjoy it unless their score is good and they want to be great at like the first round or the second round. Those kind of Upside Down, Laser Layer, those ones that are a little bit trickier are hard for them because the environment's nice, but that's not what they're there for. They want to like be great. And I think especially Upside Down, like it isn't a regular putting motion, right? Like control a putt like that. I'm kind of there for it. Like, I don't really play a whole lot of actual golf, so it's like challenge, and I've figured out how to do my swing. But for a lot of people, I think premise that agitate. It's okay.
That's all right. They just need to get an inversion table, like what those people used to stretch out their back. You get one of those,
exactly.
then you're backside up. And
we should have done that. That would have been a good one. But we also sort of say like, that was a real moment when course came out. We were sort of like, it feels so bad. And people so upset. But we also realized like we don't have to get out and say anything about it. They're talking out amongst themselves. This is what a real community does, is they have debate, like it. You sort of are of the mind like our community discourse does not have to be all about loving the game. Just don't hate on each other. You can hate on a course. You can hate on a score. Even hate on us. Just don't trash talk each other. That's not what this sort of place is about. So like we actually just came to peace with it. And also, people gave us flack about around the world because it was only set in one place, for example, and they just done the Owl Wolf, and so they had an expectation like, now they can do portals. They can go anywhere they want to all the time. And so we got a little bit of guff about that, but it's just part of growing, and I think people feel ownership of a game where they've got strong opinions, and that's a good thing.
Well, it's optional DLCs, and let's be real. If you are so focused on keeping people happy and like, oh no, we got to keep them, they're not going to like this, so we can't do it. You're never going to take a chance, and you're never going to really do anything great. And anything in life, not just this game. It's like you can't be hyper focused on that.
Well, and also every single course that's out there is somebody's favorite, regardless of it being somebody else's not.
That's what I always say about games.
Yeah, it's like the worst game out there is someone's favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. We do talk about that, David, a lot of just like, that's when we start to fail as a studio, that we just try to go right down the middle, do a really, really safe course that most people are going to love, have that be our motivation versus what we think is right or interesting or new or novel or kind of boundary pushing. That's the beginning of the end, because then we're just sort of making generic courses that are safe. And we certainly try to return to the classic gameplay and sort of super comfortable environment regularly, but we don't make that our North Star. I think
it's the problem that comedy movies have fallen into. Like my favorite comedy movies were like 80s and 90s and some early 2000s. Now it's very like formulaic, very scared to take a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the dumb, silly ones, like not even controversial, like Waterboy or all the classic Adam Sandler or Liar Liar. You just don't really get that from comedy movies anymore. But I think it's because people are scared to take that chance or do something that hasn't been proven that it works in a comedy sense. So I love that Walkabout. There, what people think matters, but it's not going to stop you guys in the end. So,
well, and I think part of it is that we're 100% independent, player funded, and so we don't have to like return investors' investment. We don't have to like go for some big moonshot and make some ungodly sum of money. We're just making a living. So like, because we're player funded, we just have to please the players, each other. We don't have to please investors. I think this is where the studios for movies get in such a situation, is they're like, the only way we can make this movie profitable and return actors' salary is like make this formulaic hit that's guaranteed to appeal to 8-year-olds to 80-year-olds. They can't make like an indie hit anymore. They can only do that on Netflix or Hulu or something like that. And so we've been really intentional about staying totally independent so that we are free to sort of make those decisions. Like we think it's right. We think our players will enjoy this. If we're doing it fun and not like the spreadsheet says that he has to perform 10 act or whatever. Like, I think the thing, it's like VR. One thing I understood early on when I got into Mighty Coconut VR is driven by passionate people who want to see it succeed. There's a few trash talkers and trolls and people that are trying to kind of bring it down. For the most part, it's developers and creators and players that want to see it work. They want to see each other succeed in that. There's even with Apple's headset and all the other headsets coming in, there's no moment where the line is going like that, right? Yep, steadily, there's more people normalized, people are playing it more. But there's not like an iPod, iPhone moment where all of a sudden like VR is just like every third person had VR coming in the immediate future. And so therefore there can be no reasonable game development idea or marketing campaign dependent on this is going to bring in every single VR player to play this game all day, every day. Like that happening, right? 10 years from now, it'll be a totally different situation, but it's going to take low incremental growth. And so you have to do things that appeal to like a set of people that are playing right now regularly. That's the only way to sort of make a living at it. Everything else is just sort of a moonshot and a pitch deck for an investor that you're fingers crossed that might sort of work out. We try to keep that in mind. So we're there to serve the players.
Well, I think Mighty Coconut is more than figured out the formula that works exceptionally well for them and the team. And you can't argue the price. So the consumer is the one who feels like, haha, I made out better in the end on this. So, I mean, no, the formula works and it's a proven formula. And I put total faith in whatever the team does. And hey, one course might not be my favorite, but you know what? I'll still be playing it day one. Is unquestionable.
Finding all the balls.
Yeah, you got to find the balls.
Yeah, man. And I love just waiting to see like what could come next. And
think of all the courses that have had one mechanic for one hole. Like think like the air hockey hole on Meow Wolf.
Mhm.
That could be a whole course, in my opinion. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have one last question, then I'll pass it to you. If you have anything, then we'll let you go free.
Sure.
Sorry for going late and all.
holding hostage.
It might not even be a question that you can answer because it might already be in the works. But do you have a dream course, whether that be game mechanic wise or licensing wise?
It's loaded because he can't answer one if it isn't.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to just pass on that, you can.
I'm trying to think. I mean, what that would actually sort of be. One course this is one that I always say that everyone here's always like, how we came to that. I always want to do like The Shining or something, something that's sort of like, a very like a Stanley Kubrick sort of like not horror, but more like a thing where the environment is iconic, but it wouldn't actually be bloody or crazy. I've always wanted to do something like that because I feel like it would be a departure. I think, with the Widow's Walkabout, we saw an appetite for edgier kind of things coming up on jump scare sort of stuff with like the dolls and the spiders. So I'd love to get into some crazy sort of places like that. I think Wes Anderson is another area where I don't know which Wes Anderson movie you'd pick, Royal Tenenbaums and that. I would love to see something along those lines. Certainly there's the big kind of blockbuster hits of my childhood and young adulthood that I would love to see. And I imagine we'll get some of those today. But I have my personal favorites for sure that I'd love to, we do talk internally about just our personal wish lists. And normally it's just because one of the funny things about being a coconut is like, we're no different from regular players. Like we have ideas, we want to see things happen, we have questions, but we have to we're trying to get those heard. And if anything, we're like, you bring it up every meeting. I can put it on Slack every single day. So we're just sort of like, maybe, I've got an idea. Because, it's just something about the format. It tickles the imagination where it invites everyone to sort of put forth an idea. The fun part. So we're no different really in that regard.
I love it. I never even thought of The Shining.
The Shining has a lot of doable scenes.
Could even do like a little, some, moon landing references
Freaking
like the
hallway
people
scene.
always say.
Yeah, the hallway, the big ballroom, the walk-in freezer, you'd have a putter. I mean, there's just so many things you could do there that would be.
The
That would be a good one.
outdoor labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
You threw out a good one as it. So,
Yeah.
But before we let David go, is there anything else you wanted to ask him?
No, I was watching time flip by like seconds. It
Mhm.
wasn't even funny.
One of the easiest interviews I think we've ever done.
I'm looking at the counter and I'm like, are you kidding me, man?
Mm-hmm. This was a fun one.
This is crazy.
I don't know how we waited so long to get.
No, I want to get David on again for sure. Again, with everyone else we've spoken to, and I love the energy. I love the process. I love the growth. It's a studio that's not slowing down, hasn't slowed down.
The best is yet to come. I say that about some studios like Combat Waffle
Every
Studios.
course.
Walkabout's one of them. Mighty Coconut. The
Crushed.
best is yet to come.
Crushed it with Wallace and Gromit, dude. I challenge you to go in there and not have a smile on your face or be talking to the characters because I
Mhm.
was certainly certainly talking
The
to
sheep.
You can
characters.
do your bad British accent. That's gonna be the part I'm looking forward to.
Oh no, you guys, I put total faith in the team, and I couldn't be more grateful for your time to let us in a little bit behind the scenes as to but if there was ever a book to be written on how to do it and how to do it successfully,
It's the coconut way.
it's the Coconut team. Yeah, they got it figured out.
So
Thanks. Well, I appreciate it. And I'll say again, like I said up top, I mean, what you all do is such a service to all the studios, but all the players, the whole ecosystem to really kind of understand what's going on. You know, so much of what we do is just sort of, releases ricocheting in the dark, so like having someone really analyzing and talking it out is really, really helpful. We watch every single one of your episodes and just like proud of everybody. These guys are wonderful too. So such an important part of the VR industry.
no, that means a lot coming from a studio like that. We're just glad to do our part in the VR scene. But the reality is, without great games like Walkabout Mini Golf and great studios like Mighty Coconut, there is no show for us to do. There's nothing to talk about.
We're kind of relying upon the studios doing their thing.
And
yeah.
Mighty Coconut, making a great game like Walkabout Mini Golf and making consistent great DLCs, they make our job easy as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely appreciate you. Probably, I know you guys say you appreciate us, but damn, we appreciate you guys too. So thank you for all you do for us, but also more importantly, just for the VR industry as a whole. Use the term rising tide, raises all ships. You guys are growing the industry. Absolutely. So thank you so much for taking the time with us. Like we said on a Sunday, to the listeners.
Pleasure.
I mean, chances are you've checked out Walkabout Mini Golf. If you haven't checked out the new if you haven't checked out the new Wallace and Gromit DLC, though,
shame you.
18 holes in a house. It's so much fun. And a basement and a little backyard. So go check that out. Like David said, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, drop them a 5-star review on the Oculus or
check out their Discord.
Meta Horizon store, I should say.
A dull moment.
Yeah, go check out the Discord especially if you're looking for some players to play with. And we'll check you out next week. Ciao, ciao.